I reached out and told you could ask me anything. You asked me 40 questions about gear, trails, and even some personal items. What were the questions? And what were my answers? Stay tuned and find out. That's right, you submitted over 40 questions. Thank you to everyone who provided a question, and because we have so many questions, I'm going to zip through the answers. Our first question here is from Rob Pelton.
Hey Jeremy, Rob Pelton here. My question for you is, what would your top 3 luxury items be on trail?
Thanks, Krusty. My first luxury item is the Knox Gear 39G Bluetooth speaker. 39 grams, clips right onto my sternum strap, or I can put it on my hat. But this allows me to listen to music, listen to podcasts, and I can still hear the environment around me. It's super small. I keep it right here so it's not very loud. If I do see somebody else coming or I see an animal, I just hit this button right here in the middle and it pauses. Also, I think would be good for people are the AirPods, but I know I would lose those. My second luxury item, because I carry that Bluetooth speaker, I carry a phone, I carry my Garmin, all these different things. I have to carry this power bank that weighs over a pound. My luxury item number 3 is a king size candy bar. Every night before I go to sleep, I have my whatchamacallit or Reese's or Snickers, but it's the king size. And that is something that I look forward to every day. And come to think of it, Krusty, you're kind of my luxury item. I don't really need you, but you do add enjoyment to the trip. Our next question is from Crow from As the Crow Flies Hiking.
Hey, Jeremy, it's Crow from As the Crow Flies Hiking. I had a 2-part question. Number 1, what was your toughest day on trail? And number 2, if you could have any job in the world other than what you're doing now, what would it be? That's all I got. Hope you're doing well.
Toughest day on the trail. There's been quite a few of them. The one that comes to mind is a day on the Ouachita Trail. It was after my 3rd resupply. I only had, like 70 miles left. It's like the last leg of my hike, and my knee just started to give out and really hurt. I could hardly bend my knee. I stopped, looked at my phone. I was about ready to call the shuttle and quit, but I didn't have cell phone reception. So I sucked it up. I just kept on walking, and for some miracle, I don't know if it was all the praying I was doing, but my knee started to feel better, and I ended up putting in 20 miles a day that day, and the next day I woke up, it was fine the next day, but it was just that uncertainty. It was really tough emotionally and physically. Your second question, what job would I like to do other than what I'm doing right now? This is a tricky one because I don't want to do something and get paid for it that I really like to do as a hobby. Sure, I have a YouTube channel. I get a little bit of money for doing these YouTube videos, and I get paid to hike, but it's not that much money. If I relied on making these videos to pay my mortgage, to pay my car payment, to pay for food and all that sort of stuff, it would become a job, and I'm afraid that I wouldn't enjoy it anymore. So my answer to that is probably after I win the lottery and I'm independently wealthy, probably in about a year or 2 here, what I would actually like to do is I would like to become a producer of documentaries. Not necessarily about hiking, but just different things. But again, I don't want to have to rely on that for income. So it would have to be after I am independently wealthy already. All right. The next question is from Mike Miller.
Started following you when you did the through hike of the Centennial Trail in South Dakota. Love it. Hey, do you ever get down to Ellsworth, Wisconsin for cheese curds? Does your wife ever backpack with you? And how many games in a year do you ref in basketball?
Okay, we have 3 questions there. First of all, Ellsworth, Wisconsin is known for their cheese curds. They're kind of the capital of Wisconsin cheese curds, and Wisconsin is already known for cheese curds. They're delicious. That being said, I don't go there that often, even though it's only about a half an hour away from my house. I don't know why, but I just haven't went there that often. Okay, the next question is, has your wife ever backpacked with you? She just texted me that something else is going on here, but the answer is no. For a couple different reasons. We camped when our children were younger, car camped. And she went out hiking with me a few times, but surprisingly, I probably pushed her a little too hard to go too far, and it wasn't fun. And she didn't want to do it with me anymore. Go figure. But seriously, she has her hobbies. I have my hobbies. We've been married for over 26 years. We need to do things separately. I did a video on this with my wife where you can hear her explain why it's okay for me to go backpacking all these times without her. Third question. Yes, I am a basketball referee. I've been doing it for about 8 years. Last year, I went over 2,000 games. And I ref between high school and the middle school games on weekends, probably about 200 to 300 trips per year. Every March, right after the basketball season is over, I go on a long hike for a week or two just to decompress from people yelling at me as a basketball official. Okay, our next question is from Skeeter.
Hey Jeremy, Skeeter here. My question is, do you work out, bro?
Why, yes. Yes, I do work out. In fact, I work out every day for hour and 15, hour and a half. I also try to eat well when I'm not backpacking. So it's a lot of work. I'm just not naturally skinny, but and I'm not skinny because I go hiking. I just happen to go hiking after working out. So here are a few more questions that I got on email. The first one is from Jason. Have you ever had hunger suppression on the trail? I attempted the Centennial Trail in South Dakota last week and had to get off trail because I couldn't eat. I did make 67 miles up to Whispering Pines. Way to go. I brought a variety of food, just couldn't physically eat any of it. I haven't had any problem before. Long days at Afton, shakedown hikes I went on. Is that why you eat hiker trash? Any thoughts? I have had hiker suppression, mainly at altitude in Colorado. However, I found that hiker suppression, at least for me, usually comes when I overdo it. When I push too hard, everybody's been kind of nauseous, but you just kind of sit at camp and you force feed yourself, and it's super tough. So, and if you look up altitude symptoms, often appetite suppression is one of them. So just don't push too hard. Another thing is if you get too much sun, you kind of feel sick from that. So just be smart. Maybe cut back on your miles next time. Some of these things that you mentioned were more of day hikes and shorter hikes. So when you're hiking longer distance, of course, it is cumulative and you can get tired over time. Okay, Jason has a lot of questions. Let's see here. He has some more. Why do you use a hammock instead of a tent? It seems to me that a hammock is a bit more cumbersome and needs more stuff. Highly technical term, stuff. I haven't looked into it, so I'm sure I'm missing something. Of the YouTubers I follow, you and Rob, Mr. Krusty, seem to be the only ones that using a hammock. I could be convinced. Maybe the wife wouldn't be if I want to spend more money. I'm not here to convince anybody. Hike your own hike, camp the way that you want to camp. I camp in a hammock because it's way more comfortable for me to sleep in than it is to lay on the ground. I'm a side sleeper. Many of you know when you sleep on your side on the ground, your hip kind of goes into the ground no matter how thick or how big your sleeping pad is. I just think sleeping in a hammock is better. I sleep in a Warbonnet Ridgerunner bridge hammock, which is better for side sleeping than a gathered in hammock. Also, I am 52 years old and I have the prostate of a 98-year-old. I have to get up a couple times a night to pee, and getting up off the ground is a lot harder than it is from a hammock. I also like the hammock because the tarp is separate. And in rainy conditions, I can set up my tarp and then set up my hammock and my quilts and everything under that tarp and stay dry. Likewise, tearing down, you tear everything down, then you take your tarp down and everything stays dry. It's a little bit harder to set up and tear down in a tent. That being said, I do sleep in a tent when I have to. A lot of my trips to Colorado, I am in a tent. All right, on to some Instagram questions. The first one from MJLGZ Cummings. Question, are you forever riding off exploring the Northeast? Not really. However, I prefer to go camping out west in the drier and up in the mountains. So when I am going to travel a long ways in a car or flying, I prefer to go out west. I think the Northeast is probably a little bit more like the Midwest with the Green Tunnel. I am thinking about next spring after the basketball season again of maybe doing 200 or 300 miles on the southern portion of the Appalachian Trail. I haven't figured out the logistics of it yet, but I could be going there. The next one's from Adam Madge, better known as Toots. What is the worst and the best meal you have had on a trip? The first one, this is cheating. You were with me. We were in Colorado, and my sister-in-law Nancy brought us moonlight pizza from Salida out to us on the trail. And they have this pizza with cream cheese on it that is delicious. That being said, the other traditional best meal, the spring I went out to Iowa and I packed in some pre-cooked barbecued ribs and made them over the campfire. Oh man, they were good. Okay, the worst. The worst is probably a few years ago, I tried to start dehydrating food myself, and I made some spaghetti with some egg noodles, and I made it really spicy because when you dehydrate it and cook it again and rehydrate it, you lose some flavor. My buddy Chuck and I were on a mountain in Colorado, and it was disgusting. Okay, the next question is from Kim Bremeyer. All right, who's calling me in the middle of a video? It's my wife. Decline. All right. Kim Brymeyer's question is, from a scenic view perspective, what trail in the Boundary Waters is your favorite? I just did a video on that, and my primary rating was for a beauty. The first is the Border Route Trail. However, that trail is pretty difficult. If you're looking for a shorter trip, I would recommend the Angleworm Trail, which I've been on 4 times, is beautiful, and it's only 14 miles. So you could do a day trip or an overnighter. The next question is from Van Moose 31. Hey, Jeremy, I'm heading out for a 7-day hike with nowhere to recharge. What do you use to keep your electronics topped off? Batteries, power banks, solar panels, etc. Thanks for taking us on your adventures. Well, thank you for watching my adventures. There's no secret here. This power bank will last me 4 or 5 days, weighs a pound. I think it's 26,800 milliamps. Here's a smaller one that I take on shorter trips. This weighs a lot too. Last year I bought this Nitecore power bank that's about 1,000 milliamps, but it's only going to recharge your phone like twice maybe. So, I don't rely on solar because, frankly, I think it's unreliable. So I do bring the power banks, but they do weigh a lot. I don't have a magic answer to a lightweight answer to that question. The next question is from Micah Taylor. What's your daily, weekly training like? If you're comfortable sharing, what are your thoughts on your weight loss journey? Was it part of the purpose of hiking or a byproduct of it, etc.? As I mentioned earlier, I am going to have a video out next week that I already made on my fitness routine of how I work out an hour and 15 to hour and 30 minutes every day, a mix of cardio and lifting weights, as well as when I'm not backpacking and eating like a 12-year-old. I actually eat healthy most of the time. It's low carb, some intermittent fasting, but details on that will be in next week's video, so take a look at that. And by the way, I'm not thin because I go hiking. I am thin and I go hiking. Typically, I don't lose any weight on my hiking trips because when they're over, I go, eat a huge cheeseburger and pizza and those sort of things. So if I do lose weight while I'm hiking, I regain it all back as soon as I get off trail, which isn't a bad thing. It's just what happens. Next question is from Harry Engelbright. Hey there, Jeremy. Harry from Wisconsin. My question is, did it take a bit to get used to solo overnighters, especially in remote areas? Yes, it did. It doesn't bother me at all now, and I'm not nervous about it at all. But at first, it took some getting used to, where you hear a branch crack, and you're like, oh, it's a bear. It never bothered me while I'm hiking, but at camp it did. The other tip that I have is to wear earplugs when you go to bed. That way, the little mouse or squirrel running around doesn't sound like a bear. A lot of people say, well, what happens if a bear does come? Well, if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. I can still hear somewhat when I have the earplugs in, so if there are major noises, I'm going to hear it. But the little ones, they won't distract you, and you don't blow it out of proportion. But it does take some time, but you get used to it, I guess. Okay, the next question is from Sean Donovan. I shouldn't say question. There's a lot of questions here. Top 5 SHT sections for a weekend through trips. Best tips for mosquito protection during the early mid-summer. Thoughts on poncho versus umbrella kit versus rain jacket. Best SOS device that doesn't require recurring fees. Best trail sunscreen. Thoughts on mini biking bidets. Okay, the first question, I'm not going to break it down into sections, but my favorite areas on the Superior Hiking Trail are Judge Magny State Park, down to Grand Marais. You have the Lake Walk. You have the lookout, Pincushion Lookout, just north of Grand Marais. That's beautiful. Other sections that I've hiked a lot are Crosby Manitou State Park down to Section 13. Love Section 13. Sanju Lake, Eggy Lake, and it's a pretty flat area going through Finland. So that's a good section. Everybody likes to go down by Bear Lake, Beaver Bay, Silver Bay. It's beautiful. I love walking along Bear Lake, but there's just a lot of people, so I don't go there a whole lot anymore. The part that I would not go on again unless I had to is between Two Harbors and Duluth. It's just flat, boring, walking on snowmobile trails. Yeah. Bug protection, DEET, permethrin. Early to midsummer, just stay home, dude. Go in the spring, go in the fall. As far as rain protection, I just wear a raincoat. I wear the Enlightened Equipment Visp. I like it because it's super lightweight. It has pit zips. Opening up that area keeps you cooler. I just have REI rain pants. I have had rain skirts. I've tried to carry an umbrella. I only wear rain pants when it's cold. So a rain skirt really didn't do anything for me. I don't typically pack pants. I wear shorts or long underwear. If it's cold enough, I'm going to put the pants on. If it's warm enough, I'm just going to walk with shorts and have my legs be wet. Okay, the ACR. I did have the ACR as a SOS device that doesn't require the monthly fees. However, and I sold it. I think it worked fine. You know, as you know, it's a one-time thing, and I didn't have a disaster where I had to trigger it. I sold it. I bought a Garmin. I pay the $25 a month because I go hiking enough, and I do like the feature where it tracks you, and I can message my wife when I don't have cell service. Sunscreen, I'm not the guy to ask. I typically don't wear sunscreen. I have darker skin where I don't get sunburnt a lot. I do wear my sun hoodie, and I do wear a hat and sun protection on my eyes when necessary. But like my forearms, hands, legs, I typically don't have to worry about sun damage. Never used the bidet, but I'd be up for a try. Just a lot of questions there, and frankly, I don't poop a lot on the trail, so not an issue. All right, Andrew hikes Bergs. I'm hiking the Colorado Trail southbound from Denver to Buena Vista later this month. You lucky dog. I'll be doing Collegiate West route plus half of the Collegiate East on this trip. I'm a hammock camper, but I feel it's best to go with a tent on the CT route. Is this your recommendation too? Next year I plan to go down towards Durango. Little known fact here. I am also going to be hiking the Collegiate West in about a week with my buddy Chuck. We have through hiked all of the Colorado Trail. Our first hike was actually on Collegiate East, and we did that in hammocks. Doing the Collegiate East in hammocks is very easy. I would recommend taking a tent the rest of the trail because a lot of the time you are over tree line at altitude. That being said, if you had to, I think you probably could hammock camp the Colorado Trail. However, you may be pushed to go farther to get back down a hill to tree line or stop early. Or if you're up on tree line, you're going to have to hike a long ways off trail to get down to get to tree line. So I would recommend a tent other than the Collegiate East, which it was easy to hike and camp in a hammock. Have fun. Maybe I'll see you on the trail. Outdoor adventures with Shane. Hey, Shane. I've camped with Shane before. I think he's asked me this question a few times. When will there be another episode of Chewing the Fat? If you don't know what Chewing the Fat is, Rob Pelton and I used to do, it was kind of a podcast type video where we just sit around here for 45 minutes, an hour, and talk about backpacking and other nonsense. Mainly we did it during COVID. No plans for another Chewing the Fat. Sorry, bud. The fact is, Rob lives like 45 minutes away from me. He's a busy guy. He's got a girlfriend. And not many people really watch Chewing the Fat. So no plans for another one, but you never know. If we get bored someday, it could happen. Jay McLean, 1911. Any tips for someone looking to section hike the Colorado Trail in a similar fashion to what you did, particularly for flatlanders going to elevation. Diamox. It is a prescription that helps you acclimate to altitude. I would recommend that. You take it a couple days before, a couple days during. You do start to get tingly fingers are the worst side effect, but if that happens, you just stop taking the pills. Allow as much time as you can for acclimation. I typically don't, because I don't want to waste days just sitting there before I start hiking. So the smart person would, if you are going to start hiking without acclimating for a couple days, take it easy on those first couple days. I had to stop because of heat exhaustion. Because I didn't do that, the sun, the heat, not being able to breathe, you feel like frankly, a fat old guy, even if you're in shape, when you get up there and you're huffing and puffing. And I tell you, after 4 or 5 days, man, I could just cruise up there. It was almost easier than here. So another tip is, if you're going to be section hiking it, go for as many days as possible. Make it a 7-day trip opposed to a 3-day trip, and you're going to get more days after acclimating. Okay, Bossmare 0531. I'm also interested in the Colorado Trail section hiking, as others have mentioned. What would you suggest as the first easy sections of the Colorado Trail for someone from the Midwest? Love your content. Well, thank you. Again, acclimating. I would highly recommend, if you don't have it on your phone, there's an app called Far Out. It used to be Guthook. And on there, it has a map of the profile and the elevations, and it'll show you your climbs. You can scale it, for 10 miles or 5 miles or 40 miles. And it'll show you the climbs and how steep they are. So I can't recommend a section to you. Don't think that being in the mountains, like in the San Juan Mountains, is going to be more difficult. A lot of that time you're up at altitude and you don't have the steep ups and downs. So look at Far Out. I would recommend that you try to stay away from segment 2, which is the segment that I got heat exhaustion in. Not a lot of climbing, but there's no shade and there's no water. So it can be difficult if it's warm out. Outdoors with John USA. As a fellow YouTuber, I'd like to know more about the behind-the-scenes editing. Behind the scenes. Your videos are very well produced. Well, thank you. I put a lot of effort into editing my videos. Most of my hiking videos, I spend probably over 8 hours editing. My recent one, I did it on the Boundary Waters, Best Trails. I spent over 20 hours editing that one. So I do use a program on my Mac here called Final Cut Pro. It's very advanced and takes some time to learn. When I edit my trip videos, I edit it down 3 times. I come back with an hour and a half or 2 hours of footage. First rough edit gets it down to 35 minutes. I go back through and clean it up and try to take out things that I don't need. That gets it down to hopefully 20 minutes or so. And then the last time I go through, I'm adding in all of the music, the voiceover, the maps, the graphics, and just doing that final edit through to make sure all of my audio levels and everything look good. And one of the hard things when people are doing backpacking videos is trying to take out unnecessary footage. That shot may have taken me 25 minutes and a lot of work to put in my video, but is it really adding to the story of the video? Every video is a story and not just showing off the footage that you took. So sometimes it's you got to make that hard decision and eliminate some footage that you really liked. Okay, official Darren, opposed to the unofficial Darren, would like to say, hi, Jeremy. I see a lot of folks making videos of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, Superior National Forest, North Shore, but almost none being in the Chippewa National Forest and nearby state forest and state parks. There are several backpacking trails in that area, but it's harder to find much info on them. Have you ever backpacked this region, and do you have any pros, cons about the area to share relative to Northeast Minnesota? I think I've taken one backpacking trip through that area. It was on the North Country Trail quite a while ago. And like you, there isn't much information on that area. So I haven't been backpacking there much. I can say that the section of the North Country Trail that I was on in that area was average, typical woods, but it wasn't super remote, wasn't super interesting. If I'm wrong and the Chippewa National Forest is interesting, anybody who's watching this, tell me where to go. Don't tell me where to go, but tell me where to go camping and where to go backpacking in that area, because I'd love to find another option that's only 3 hours or so from my house that's interesting. So comment down below, and then I will know, and official Darren will know. Okay, my final question here came from Facebook. Stephen Winhaas. How old were you when you started backpacking? My first backpacking trip was when I was about 40. Went out with my church and we did a trip with the Boundary Waters Advisory Committee where we did trail maintenance. It was a lot of fun. Just didn't stick. Then I started backpacking frequently when I was about 45 years old. So you don't have to be 25. A lot of people either go backpacking before they have kids, when their kids are really little, and then you get busy when your kids are preteen, teenagers, and then after your kids graduate or after they're older and don't want to talk to you anymore, you can start backpacking more. So those are all the questions. I've babbled on for way too long. Thanks for watching my channel. If you got all the way to the end of this video, you're probably one of the hardcore big fans of Midwest Backpacker, and I really do especially appreciate you people. I'm almost up to 10,000 subscribers now, but when you comment on my videos positively, whether that be in detail or just giving me a thumbs up or thank you, I really appreciate those. So anyway, I'm going to let you go. I need to call my wife back because I've ignored her for too long. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you out on the trail.